Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum, and welcome back to the program. And as we said earlier, we were hoping to give you some update with regards northern Mozambique and Cabo Delgado. Now, a wave of attacks in recent weeks has threatened to further delay a massive, $20 billion gas project, which is currently being, championed by a French company, Total Gas, all right, or Total Energy. Now, this project has already been put on hold. Now, a regional bloc of forces from SADC, including soldiers from Rwanda, have been in northern Mozambique. And since the troops have been there, they've recaptured some towns and that were taken by the Islamic State rebels in northern Mozambique. Now, the recent surge of violence, though, which has spread to areas close to Pemba, which is the capital city of the Cabo Delgado province, has got people panicking because pictures have surfaced where people have been beheaded. That's their heads cut off. And let's get a better picture of the conditions on the ground. I'm joined now by Borges Nhamire. He's from the Institute for Security Studies, and He joins us now from Maputo, live in Mozambique. Borges, good evening to you and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Borges, what is going on in Cabo Delgado? We are hearing that there have been some beheadings taking place. The people are panicking. They are worried. What's happening there?
Yes, thank you very much. What is happening is that since the arrival of foreign troops in the capital, Gado, the insurgents, I think the insurgents, they did manage to understand how the foreign troops operate. So they took some time to adapt themselves to the new reality. So now they know how to deal with the Rwandese and with the SADC force. So now they are expanding south. Now they have started to attack a new district that they have never been attacked before, like Meluku and Kwabi, and now they are moving south. And they even have attacked, and the Islamic State has climate attacks in a new province, which is Nampula, a neighboring province. So we can say that first of all, they have managed to know how to deal with the foreign troops. Secondly, this is something it was expected because the rainy season has just ended in Mozambique, which starts from November until April. So now, with the end of the rainy season, they started to conduct new attacks. Capital Gado is a province of dense forests, so they cannot attack neither the government force or the foreign force, including the insurgent. They cannot fight during the rainy season. The situation is so difficult. So now, with the end of the rainy season, the insurgents are starting to attack, and this is something that was already expected. What we can
Mhm.
wait to see now is how the situation will evolve in the next 2-3 months.
Mm. Now, before they started to attack, is it true that the Southern African soldiers and the Rwandan soldiers were able to defeat them? Because we got we got some reports in the media that the forces, the SADC forces and the Rwandan soldiers were able to push them back deep into the forest, where they only came out when they needed to look for food. So is it true that that was happening, or what have you seen from your vantage point, Borges?
Yes, this is true. This is true that with the arrival of foreign troops, the Rwandese, the Southern African troops, they pushed the insurgent back. They dislodged them from the towns, they dislodged them from some of their bases, but they did not defeat them. It's very difficult to
Mm.
say that we can defeat terrorism. Terrorism is an ideology, so you cannot defeat them by military operations. So to fight and defeat terrorism, you need to implement, an integrated response, holistic response, which will go from military operations, economic response, development policies, so that you can take from them the support from the local community. So this is not something that can be done in 1, 2 to 3 years. Military intervention is important
Right.
to stop, to contain the attacks. But far from, as soon as you contain the attacks, then you need to start to implement developmental programs so that
Right.
you can uh, cut off the logistic. You can also cut off the support that they get from local community. So this is what
Mm.
did not happen so far.
Okay. Borges, you wrote recently, and your articles are everywhere on in South African media, that there were reports of beheadings, people whose heads were cut off, and these pictures were distributed, in the community. What impact has this had on the people of the northern province of Cabo Delgado? Uh, has it? Because we know that the conflict has displaced a lot of people. But the reason why I'm asking this question is: are there more people trying to flee conflict? I'm talking civilians, because now we are seeing pictures that have been distributed of people that have been beheaded.
Yes, the real impact of it is that with people being beheaded, uh, everyone is trying to leave their community. So
Mm,
now people don't wait to see what will happen. As soon as there, maybe it is just gossip, someone saying, just like rumor saying, okay, uh, there will be attack here. People leave their homes and flee. So that is causing a kind of panic. That's why now more than a third of capital Gado inhabitants, they are displaced now. We're talking about 800,000 people have been displaced. So the humanitarian situation is very, very, very complicated because people are running. And understand me, people from Cabo Delgado are poor people. Like Mozambique is a poor country, just like another African country. And those people live by agriculture. They need to go to the farming in daily basis. So if those people they cannot stay in their homes to do the farming, it means hunger is starting to be a
mm.
problem there because they cannot have things to eat to feed their children. So the situation, the humanitarian side of this problem is the most drastic.
Mm. But because I in my introduction I was talking about the fact that the Total Energy, French company that's got a $20 billion investment in the gas project, the liquefied gas. Now, because of this insurgency, we know that this project has been put on hold. I would like you to perhaps give us an idea of the impact this project will have on Mozambique. Mozambique, currently one of the third poorest countries in the world, but is poised because of such projects to become one of the richest in the region. But now there's an insurgency. Perhaps if you could just explain that to the viewers, please.
Yes, the point is that Mozambique has been relying in this LNG project. You are saying this is 20 billion USD project in terms of
Mhm.
investment, but overall, the LNG project in the capital Gado is expected to generate some 100 billion USD in 30 years' time. So, with this halted, with this suspended, it means the state revenues, are not guaranteed. So this is a big concern for Mozambique. And also, this project have what is called to be the multiplying effect that it will bring employment, it will help the local content, so that beside the employment, we can have like a small business around the project for catering, for castration, so on. And with this
Mhm.
project halted, the hope as well of Mozambique uh, has been suspended, and we don't know when it will come back. And we are talking about LNG project, but it go further. It's not only LNG project. Also in the capital Gado, we have this graphite project, which has been supplying Tesla in the United States for this electric car. Also, it has been suspended because of the attacks expanding it to the south of the province. So the situation is really dramatic for the government revenues.
Hmm. But has also there's a solar plant, the biggest solar plant that has also been impacted by this insurgency. Um, you talked about energy, which is the liquefied gas. You talked about the graphite for the electrical vehicles, the batteries, and now the solar energy plant, which is the biggest solar energy plant. I'm told has also been impacted by this spike in violence.
Yes, it has been impacted, not because it has been a target, but simply because the international company which are running the project, they decided for the security of their staff, they decided to hold the project. But also, if it continues, we're going to see the gem field, which is the biggest gem mine in the world, also is likely going to suspend the activity. So this is going to have a very huge impact. But maybe in the future, we can also see in Nampula province, for example, where we have a heavy minerals project also is going to suspend. So this is
Mm.
going to be dramatic for the state revenue in Mozambique. And by the end, it's going to be dramatic for Mozambican people, but also for the region.
Hmm. South Africa tends to benefit a lot from that gas project if it should, if the gas project should be successful, if the gas project should, as you mentioned, create the jobs and but South Africa and the rest of the region also stand to benefit from that project should it continue without any disturbance from the insurgency.
Yes, of course, as we know, Mozambique already produce gas, not LNG, but
Hmm.
natural gas from north of the Nyambane province, and all this gas is transported by pipeline to South Africa. For this LNG project in the capital Gado, there are two projects to build pipeline of almost 3,000 kilometers from capital Gado to Gauteng in South Africa. So South Africa is the biggest client local in the region of the Mozambican LNG project. So with this halted, with this project suspended, of course, it's going to impact in South African energy. And South Africa is going to shut down this coal energy and relying on this Mozambican LNG. So I say South Africa is going to switch off the coal electricity relying on Mozambican LNG. So this insurgents, instability in the capital Gado is going to have a consequence not only for Mozambique but for the region, but also for the world.
Mm. But okay, so, before I let you go, final question. Another question with regards, SADC countries who have sent soldiers to, northern Mozambique. We have been seeing some of the, reports, one or two a year about the casualties. What are the chances that these insurgents or the terrorists are going to try to hit the southern African countries within their borders who have sent soldiers to Mozambique? Is that not always a concern?
Yeah, of course, that is a concern. This is how terrorists operate. We have seen it in Syria, for example, when Western countries sent troops to help fighting in the Islamic State. Then the so-called left behind, they started to hit the countries supporting Syria and Iraq. So this is something that might happen. Maybe not the same group operating in the capital Gado, but their supporters, for example, in South Africa, their supporter in another country supporting Mozambique, they might face some threats. This is something that can be expected for those by those who support them. But also, I must say that the environmental condition that we have in the capital Gado, we don't have them, for example, in South Africa. So we cannot face in South Africa a kind of a rural guerrilla because we don't have rural areas in South Africa uh, with the same condition we have in the capital Gado. So we might see different kind of operation in South Africa, for example, the bomb-like attacks, which we don't see in the capital Gado. This is a risk. The question is how serious this risk is. I believe that the neighboring countries, South Africa, Tanzania, and other countries supporting Mozambique are doing their own work to increase the security in their own countries, inland, because they know that from the time that they decided to support Mozambique, they are facing the risk of retaliation in their own countries.
Mm. Borges Nhamire, thank you very much. Muito obrigado for your time. I see you are out there in Maputo, and keeping us updated. We are reading your articles on the various websites here in South Africa. We're really glad that we managed to get hold of you and to speak to us as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Borges Nhamire there from ISS Africa, based in Maputo, giving us the latest with regards the insurgency in Cabo Delgado, and very bleak outlook there, saying that this is terrorism, and you don't defeat terrorism militarily. It's going to take years and years of concerted effort of not just defeating them militarily, but also the economic development and the social investment that's needed to ensure that those conditions that allow terrorists to spring up are not given oxygen. Bringing our time to 40 minutes after 8. Thank you very much for tuning in to that interview. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back. Stay tuned.